Good morning. Today we're going to take a trip up to Pioche, Nevada. It's located about 180 miles north of Las Vegas where I live. It's an old silver mining town that's still in existence today. Still has people actively living there. Silver was discovered in 1864, but there wasn't much activity there until about 1869 and 70, and then it became a real boom town that rivaled the Virginia City in Nevada as well. So we're going to go up there. I got my travel coffee. We're going to go up there and check it out. I want to make a historical video of that. Come along with me. Let's go explore Pioche. In 1864, William Hamblin, a Latter-day Saint missionary, was led to silver deposits in the vicinity of Pioche by a Native American Paiute. When the area was first settled in April of 1864, it was still part of the Utah Territory. However, that did change when Nevada officially became a state in October of 1864. Pioche was first settled by Joseph Grange and E. Chubbard, who erected a small furnace in 1868. However, the project failed and they soon abandoned this location. In 1868, San Francisco financier Francis L. A. Pioche purchased claims and constructed a smelter in the area, forming the Meadow Valley Mining Company. The mining camp was called Pioche City and later became known as Pioche. In 1869, John Ely and William Raymond, who had earlier been operating in Pahranagat Valley, arrived in the area of Pioche. They first ran a stamp mill in Hyco, but because the ore from nearby Logan City was low grade, the mill failed. They then traveled to Panaca, where they hired a few Mormons to haul the mill to a sloping hillside, where there was an abundance of water between Pioche and Panaca. This site would later become known as Bullionville. This mill was an immediate success. The Raymond and Ely ore, as well as those from many other claims in the district, was processed here at Bullionville. Established in 1870, over the next 2 years, most of the nearby Pioche's mills were located here because of the proximity to water. The town grew rapidly, and by 1875 it had 5 mills, a population of 500, and the first iron foundry in eastern Nevada. During the same year, a waterworks was constructed at Pioche, which eventually led to the relocation of the mills. Although a plant was erected here in Bullionville in 1880 to work the tailings deposited by the former mills, this failed to prevent a decline of Bullionville. In 1872, Pioche was at the peak of a silver boom. Its output was second only to that of the Comstock lode in Nevada, and the population had reached 7,500. Nevertheless, the town was isolated from the American railroad system. The first railroad was not an effort to end this isolation, but rather a narrow gauge to serve local demands. Local mine operators incorporated the Pioche and Bullionville Railroad early in 1872. This railroad was completed in June of 1873. The railroad connected Pioche with Bullionville, 20 miles to the south, a town with the site of several mills. Most of the traffic was ore from Pioche for processing at Bullionville. After 1875, Bullionville slowly declined, and the settlement's mills were moved between 1875 and 1877. The railroad between Pioche and Bullionville stopped running by 1880, and the town was eventually abandoned. The post office closed in November of 1886, reopened in October of 1892, and closed again. There are no original buildings to mark the site of the original settlement. The only evidence that Bullionville ever existed is told by the cemetery that sits up on the hill just off the highway. Although silver ore was discovered in this area, in 1864, no important development took place until 1869 when the mines were opened and the town of Pioche was founded. Miners had retrieved over $5 million in the ore by 1872, but by 1900, Pioche was nearly a ghost town. Pioche rapidly became one of the largest towns in southeast Nevada in the early 1870s. The population was estimated to be 10,000 people by 1871. The town quickly gained fame for the toughest town reputation, due mostly to the confusion over the exact location of the mining claims. And as you can see by this map, most all of the mining districts had these very, very confusing claims maps. Mine owners finally resorted to hiring guards. Hired gunmen were imported at the rate of about 20 a day during boom times to fight mining claim encroachments. It was reported that nearly 60% of the homicides in Nevada during 1871 and 1872 took place in and around Pioche. Local lore says 72 men were killed in gunfights before the first natural death occurred in the camp. This legend is immortalized by the creation of Boot Hill, now a landmark in the city. There's really a fine publication, Driving and Walking Tours. You can find that on LincolnCountyNevada.com. One of the first notable landmarks in Pioche is the so-called $1 Million Courthouse. It was designed by Edward Donahue and was built in 1871. The courthouse originally cost $16,400 and the jail an additional $10,000 for a total of $26,400. That equates to about $2.1 million in today's dollars. The courthouse was completed for more than quadruple its original budgeted costs. During the same time, the county established a line of credit to charge random expenses to that and had an incomprehensible high interest rate. Simultaneously, the silver mines dried up or at least started to become less lucrative in such a serious way that the people moved on to bigger and better things, and tax assessments drastically plummeted. By this point, the county couldn't afford to keep up with the interest charges and made no payments at all on the principal or interest for decades. By the early 1900s, the debt had climbed from $88,000 to $670,000, and the final payment wasn't made all the way until 1937. That's 65 years after it was completed. By 1937, the total cost of the Lincoln County Courthouse had grown well over $1 million. And then on top of that, it became too dilapidated to actually use and then was condemned. The courthouse sat abandoned for nearly 40 years before preservation happened and a museum was established. Today, visitors can enter into the lasting remnant of Nevada's rich mining history, complete with an attorney general's office, a mining exhibit, relics from Pioche's historic post office, the courtroom, and the original jail cell out back. Admission is free, though this culture center depends on donations. These contributions help with establishing and preserving of the museum exhibits and supports future additions to the property. So when you visit this wonderful historical resource, please consider making donations. This is the Lincoln County Courthouse. It was completed in 1939 to replace the so-called $1 Million Courthouse built in 1871. This building has served as the county courthouse, jail, county sheriff's office, and state office building ever since that time. The Mountain View Hotel was built in 1895 by the Ely Valley Mines to house their guests. Once as elegant a hotel as graced anywhere in the western United States between San Francisco and Denver, the Mountain View Hotel in Pioche has fallen into such a state of neglect, disrepair, and abandonment. It has been deemed unlivable, unfixable, and a public nuisance. Here are some of the residential buildings that are out there. Some of these are considered prestigious homes in the area of McCannon and Cedar Streets. Some are still in use today. Several of the homes were built by mining bosses, while others were occupied by doctors and lawyers. The first Episcopal church, built with money raised by the people of Pioche, was dedicated July 21 of 1872. It was located across the street from this structure. In 1897, the building was moved to Delamar where it burned. Bishop Hunting bought this building, which was the Miners' Union Hall, in 1922, and it was dedicated in 1923. This is known as the Commerce Cottage. It was one of several lending libraries in Pioche that was operated by commercial establishments in the late 1800s. In 1940, the Lincoln County Library System was started. With the purchase of this building, it served as a library for 10 years. After a number of years of neglect, the building was refurbished in 1984 to become the Pioche Chamber of Commerce. The tan building on the left originally opened up as the Turner House, a hotel that was built around the turn of the century, around early 1900. Later became known as the Pioche Hotel and was operated as such until the 1950s. It's now a private residence. The Nevada Club generally dates back to the 1900s. It is on the site of the original Pioche Alce office that had been destroyed by fire. The building just to the left of the Nevada Club is known as the Oddfellows and Rebecca's. This building was erected in 1872, one of the oldest buildings in town. The Oddfellows began meeting in this building in 1876 during a mining boom and has been used continuously ever since. The Lincoln County Museum is housed in a building built in 1900. It was a victim of a fire, and it was rebuilt once, then remodeled in 1929 to make it more modern. The building was sold and operated a mercantile and clothing store for a time. Later, the store was closed, and a family donated the building to Lincoln County in 1962 to become a museum. I wanted to share this picture right here. It must have been taken around the early 1960s, and then compare it to what you can see there today in a similar angle. The Overland Bar and Hotel building was built in 1940. It had been burned and rebuilt several times over its colorful past. This is what's left of the Pioche Club and Cafe after it was burned down in 1947. The Thompson Opera House has survived from its 1873 original construction, although it wasn't open when we visited Pioche, but the Opera House is now fully restored and serves as a Pioche Tourist Information Center. The Gem Theater was built in 1937, showed movies until 2003. When high winds blew the roof off, the owners could not afford to repair it. The Alamo Club was originally built in the mid-1800s and was the Pioche Bank originally. It is noted for the large bank vault in the rear of the building. The next few photos are depicting downtown Pioche over the years. This is the Masonic St. John Lodge, constructed of stone and brick. Started out as a restaurant bar built in 1869. It then sold to the Masons in 1873, and it's one of Nevada's oldest lodges in continuous operation. This is a photo of the commercial club and the Amston buildings that were built around 1865, along with a firehouse at the very far end. It was used for that for 40 years. I got these next two photos from the internet. You can see the brick building and the wood building between the fire station. Those buildings were demolished in 1917, no longer exist. The original Pioche Elementary School was opened in 1909. It had gone through several upgrades and modifications in the 1920s and 30s and was served continuously as a school all the way through 1999, when a newer elementary school was built and placed in the newer part of Pioche. The old school building has been sold. While we were there, it looked like somebody was doing some modifications or some rehabilitation to the building. This mine is known as the Wide Awake Mine. It was especially productive in 1919 when Stint and Donahue produced $120,000. By the 1930s, it was owned by the Pioche Mines Company. $120,000 in 1919 equates to about $3.2 million today. This site is known as the Combined Metals Reduction Company Shaft Number 1. It is the site of the original Raymond and Ely Number 1 shaft, and it's serviced by the Pioche Pacific Railroad. The property was acquired by the Amalgamated Pioche Mines and Smelter Company in 1912. The Amalgamated Pioche Corporation made no developments after 1917, but by 1924 the property was being leased by the Combined Metals Reduction Company, and that year a new mill was erected. By 1926, the Combined Metal Reduction's mill was processing 4,000 tons a month. In 1929, to better exploit the ore beneath the surface, a shaft was sunk on the western side of the mountain and connected by an 8,000-foot tunnel at the 1,200-foot level. This number 2 shaft led to the creation of nearby Castleton. In 1890, following a slump in mining activity, the Raymond and Ely, Meadow Valley, and Yuba mining companies were merged into the Pioche Consolidated Mining and Reduction Company, with well-known Salt Lake City magnate William S. Godbey at the helm. The Pioche Consolidated Mill, also known as the Godbey Mill, was built in 1891 at the site of the original Raymond and Ely No. 1 shaft, just to the east of Pioche at a place called West Point. The smelter processed ore not only for Pioche, but also for Jackrabbit and other nearby camps. The same year, the Pioche Consolidated bought the remaining assets of the abandoned Pioche and Bouillonville Railroad in the immediate area, and in 1891 started construction of the Pioche Pacific Railroad, which would serve the Pioche, Jackrabbit, and Bristol mines. The mill burned in 1893, but was quickly rebuilt. In 1923, the Godbey Mill was leased to the Combined Metals Reduction Company, and that year the mill was reconfigured into a 250-ton flotation concentrator. In 1926, the mill was processing 4,000 tons a month. It burned again in 1929, but was rebuilt yet again. Around this same time, an aerial tramway was built to transport silver and nickel ore from Treasure Hill down to Godby's Mill in the valley. Today, the abandoned tramway still stretches over the town of Pioche, with many original ore buckets intact. This aerial tramway operated in the 1920s and 1930s, carrying ore from the mines on Treasure Hill to Godby's Mill. Built by the Pioche Mines Company, the tramway was mainly gravity-powered with the aid of a 5-horsepower motor. The ore in the full buckets rolled toward the mill and provided the momentum to return the empty buckets to the bin. Hey, thanks for watching the video of Pioche with me. I appreciate you guys coming along. I enjoy shooting these videos to keep history alive, to report what was going on back in the 1870s when Pioche was founded, or 1860s. And the town has stayed pretty much alive the entire time. Of course, it's gone through some booms and busts, and there's not much mining activity today, but there's still about 1,000 people that live there. And I love reporting the history and keeping it alive, sharing with you my experiences that I have in these towns. I enjoy the whole process of creating these videos. I enjoy the research, the travel to these places, and then not so much the editing, because that's a big part of it. And it's hard to put these things together in a way that makes sense. So hopefully you guys got something out of that. And I encourage you to go visit some of these cities and towns and stuff. It's very beautiful. And Pioche in particular is a little less hot than it is here where I live in Las Vegas during this time of the year. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.